cousin. Well, cousins, it's the day after the election debate, and the Democrats are calling for poor Uncle Joe, poor Uncle Joe to step down. I feel bad. I really do feel bad for Uncle Joe. I even felt bad about putting this picture on the thumbnail, so I decided to use both Trump and Biden because somebody brought us something interested how it's interested how only the Democrats are calling for their candidate to step down, but nobody is calling for Trump to step down. But I feel bad. I really do feel bad for Uncle Joe. And I was listening to MSNBC this morning that I haven't listened to in years. My husband listens to it every morning, but he gets up and go in the guest room because I want to hear it. But he wasn't. He was on a trip for the last couple of days, and so I just turned it on to listen to it. And somebody said President Joe Biden has been through so much, and he really has. This man has been through so much, losing his wife and his daughter, I think, in a car accident, then another son. He really has lost so much, and if anybody wanted to be president, it was Joe Biden. He tried so many times, he lost. And finally, with the 2020 pandemic, according to what the Republicans believe, Nancy Pelosi and all of them was able to steal the election via computers and the mail-in ballots and all the dead people. And the correct term is undocumented people voting. This is what people are saying. Okay, I'm in the middle. I just deliver the news. Okay. But I really do feel bad for Uncle Joe that people want him to step down. My heart goes out to him. Shame on First Lady Joe Biden. Ma'am, you need to put your husband to have him come get off that stage. Get off that stage. When I see Uncle Joe, I see my dad. My dad was diagnosed a few years ago with frontal dementia. Is that what it's called? And when I saw Uncle Joe Joe last night. I saw my dad who wanted me to send him some money. He's in Florida. I'm in Jersey. And I said, okay, Daddy, I'll send it to Western Union. That's usually how I send money to him. And he said, no, it's too many numbers. Mail me a check. So I was like, okay, Daddy, what is your mailing address? And he um but my brothers had already told me that I something's going on with my dad. And so I said, okay, Daddy, go ahead and look for a letter and read the address. And he didn't know where to go find a letter. And after that, we just start changing stuff around, sold a couple of his homes, and get him a caretaker. So my heart really goes out to Uncle Joe. I know Uncle Joe want to finish want to win again in 2020 and be president for the next 4 years. But you know what, Uncle Joe, you was already president in 2020, regardless of if people think you really won or not. I mean, you will go down as the 46th president of these great United States. And so last night, the Democrats was coming over that they were calling for Uncle Joe, President Joe, to step down. And so today, me laying out there on the couch, girl, laying out, just, relaxing a little bit, watching some TV, talking to my baby daddy who just got home, and the New York Times, the editorial board, they said to serve his country, President Biden should leave the race. Oh, y'all not seeing that? That's sad. To serve his country, they're saying President Biden needs to leave his race. Based on last night, President Biden is 81. And he is not, well, you saw him last night, child. I'm not about to. Okay, so let's read a little bit of this article. The editorial board is a group of opinion journalists whose views are informed by expertise, research, debate, and certain long-standing values. It is separate from the newsroom. Okay, so they're letting you know who's giving this news, and they're probably saying this because the elected officials, Democrats, are letting them know in private. Listen, he needs to go. And now they're thinking about, well, who's going to replace? And they're thinking Newsom from California, the governor of California, is going to replace him. That's why he was there last night. But also, the Democrats knew Joe Biden is not up to it, and that's why they had an early debate in June. Okay. So let's go ahead and read. And it says President Biden has repeatedly and rightfully described the state's stakes in this November's presidential election as nothing less than the future of American democracy. Donald Trump has proved himself to be a significant jeopardy to that democracy, an erratic and self interest figure unworthy of public trust. He systematically attempted to undermine the integrity of elections. His supporters have described publicly a 2025 agenda that would give him the power to carry out the most extreme of his promises and threats. If he is returned to office, he has vowed to be a different kind of president, unrestrained by the checks on power built into the American politics. Mr. Biden has said that he is the candidate with the best chance of taking on the threat of tyranny and defeating it. His argument rests largely on the fact that he beat Mr. Trump in 2020. That is no longer a sufficient rationale for why Mr. Biden should be the Democratic nominee this year. At Thursday's debate, the president needed to convince the American public that he was equal to the formidable demands of the office he is seeking to hold for another term. Voters, however, cannot be expected to ignore what was instead plain to see. Mr. Biden is not the man he was 4 years ago. It should say President Biden. Okay, that's his title. Give him his title, President Biden. Okay, that president appeared on Thursday night as the shadow of a great public servant. He struggled to explain what he would accomplish in a second term. He struggled to respond to Mr. Trump's provocations. He struggled to hold Mr. Trump accountable for his lies, his failures, and his chilling plans. More than once, he struggled to make it to the end of a sentence. Mr. Biden has been an admirable president under his leadership. The nation has prospered. We did. And begun to address a range of long-term challenges, and the wounds ripped open by Mr. Trump have begun to heal. But the greatest public service Mr. Biden can now perform to announce that he will not continue to run for re-election. Mm, mm, mm. It's sad. Sad. It really is. My heart goes out to the president. Okay? My heart goes out to the president. As it stands, the president is engaged in reckless gamble. There are Democratic leaders better equipped to present clear, compelling, and energetic alternative to a second Trump presidency. There is no reason for the party to risk the stability and security of the country by forcing voters to choose between Mr. Trump's deficiencies and those of Mr. Biden. It's too big a bet to simply hope Americans will overlook or discount Mr. Biden's age and infirmity that they see with their own eyes. If the race comes down to a choice between Mr. Trump and Mr. Biden, the sitting president would be this board's unequivocal pick. That is how much of a danger Mr. Trump poses. But given that very danger, the stakes for the country, and the uneven abilities of Mr. Biden, the United States needs a stronger opponent to the presumptive Republican nominee. To make a call for a new Democratic nominee was late in a campaign is a decision not taken lightly, but it reflects the scale and seriousness of Mr. Trump's challenge to the values and institution of this country, and the inadequacies of Mr. Biden to confront him. Ending his candidacy would be against all of Mr. Biden's personal and politic instincts. He has picked himself up from tragedies and setbacks in the past and clearly believes he can do so again. Supporters of the president are already explaining away Thursday debate as one data point compared with 3 years of accomplishments. But the president's performance cannot be written off as a bad night or blame on a supposed cold because it affirmed concerns that have been mounting for months or even years. Even when Mr. Biden tried to lay out his policy proposal, he stumbled. It cannot be outweighed by other public appearances because he has limited and carefully controlled his public appearances. It should be remembered that Mr. Biden challenged Mr. Trump to this verbal duel. He set the rules and he insisted on a date months earlier than any previous general election debate. He understood that he needed to address long-standing public concerns about his mental acuity and that he needed to do so as possible soon as possible. The truth Mr. Biden needs to confront now is that he failed his own test. In polls, the interviews, voters say they are seeking fresh voices to take on Mr. Trump. And the consolation for Mr. Biden and his supporters is that there is still time to rally behind a different candidate. While Americans are conditioned to the long slog of multi-year presidential elections in many democracies, campaigns and staged in the space of a few months. It is a tragedy that Republicans themselves are not engaged in deeper soul searching after Thursday's debate. Mr. Trump's own performance ought to be regarded as disqualified. He lied brazenly and repeatedly about his own actions, his records, his president, and his opponent. He described plans that would harm the American economy, undermine civil liberties, and fray American relationships with other nations. He refused to promise that he would accept defeat, returning instead to the kind of rhetoric that incited the January 6th attack on Congress. And let it be known that the Supreme Court has just voted down something that has to do with the January 6th. Right on before I came on, it came over that the Supreme Court made a decision. Okay. Reading on, the Republican Party, however, has been co opted by Mr. Trump's ambitions. The burden rests on the Democratic Party to put the interests of the nation above the ambitions of a single man. Democrats who have deferred to Mr. Biden must now find the courage to speak plain truths to the party's leader, the confidants and aides who have encouraged the president candidacy and who sheltered him from unscripted appearances in public should recognize the damage to Mr. Biden's standing and the likelihood that he can repair it. Mr. Biden answered an urgent question on Thursday night. It was not the answer that he and his supporters were hoping for. But if the risk of a second Trump term is as great as he says it is, and we agree with him that the danger is enormous, then his dedication to this country leaves him and his party only one choice. The clearest path for Democrats to defeat a candidate defined by his lies is to deal truthfully with the American people, acknowledge that Mr. Biden can't continue his race, and create a process to select someone more capable to stand in his place to defeat Mr. Biden in November. It is the best chance to protect the soul of the nation, the cause that drew Mr. Biden to run for the presidency in 2019, from the malign warping of Mr. Trump, and it is the best service that Mr. Biden can provide to a country that he has notably served for so long. That was beautifully written. That was beautifully written. And I hope that the president and his cabinet and his team and Mrs. Biden, Mrs. Joe Biden, Mrs. Joe Biden, I hope that they are reading this, and I hope that President Joe Biden will do the right thing, like this article states, and bow out, and they need to choose somebody else. We already know can't be Camilla. Camilla can't win no race, child. She couldn't even win a state. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. She might have win one state. I don't think she even won California, did she? I don't know. Everybody's looking at Newsom. Hmm. Everybody's thinking the reason why uh, Newsom was there last night, Gavin Newsom, is because they're thinking that he's going to be the one. He's the one that can. He's been a governor forever. When is he gonna step down? New Jersey governor. They can only be governor for 2 terms. This is Gavin Newsom. This is the governor of California, and they are thinking the reason why he was there last night is because they're gonna put him up. They're gonna put Gavin up. Okay, because it can't be Camilla. All right, cousins. Let me know what you think. What do you think about the article? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I really don't care who you're voting for. In that, I have the mentality, as long as you vote, know why you're voting, and know why you're voting for who you're voting for, who you're voting for. But my heart goes out. And I pray that President Joe Biden will do the right thing, as the article says. Okay. But I'm not going to use that picture. It just breaks my heart because it just sort of kind of, when I see this picture, I see my dad. So I'll use this picture where he's looking up straight at the camera. And Trump too, because the people are saying, well, how come the Republicans is not telling their candidates to step down? I love you all. I'll talk to you later. I'll be in the comments, though. Let me know what you think. Bye, darlings. Be sure to subscribe and thumbs up. Share this out. Love you. Bye.